Habermas fights for reason. Well, contrary to what Jordan Peterson says, so-called postmodernism has little to nothing to do with Marxism. Contrary to what James Lindsay says, critical theorists from the Frankfurt School were not woke. Some of them are seen by others as Marxists, but they actually wrote much more about culture and philosophy than politics. They were labeled as cultural Marxists by some, but they weren't political activists or traditional Marxists in any way. They wrote about subjects like the aesthetics of fascism in culture. In the philosophical discourse of modernity, Habermas reframes the concept of reason. He starts off by outlining other philosophers' perspectives on it. Young Hegelians distance themselves from Hegel's supposed replacement of individual centered Enlightenment reason with what he called absolute knowledge. That term is a whole other rabbit hole. Unintentional reference to the Matrix poster behind me. It's a whole other rabbit hole that we don't need to go down to here. Don't go down, rather. Marx and the other young Hegelians, and Marx was not a young Hegelian for very long, contrary to what Charlie Kirk says. He Marx and the young Hegelians pointed to what they called the desublimation of the spirit, which led to a quote unquote disempowering of philosophy. So I think Habermas means here that there was a loss of the sense of an individual with a spirit created by God, the dominant perspective in a lot of the history of Western philosophy. Much of that entire major aspect of the field relied on this perception of reason and the individual. So, the impurity of reason, due to its inevitable entanglement with history, society, power, and self interest, led to different philosophers proposing alternative solutions and making sometimes similar pronouncements. Nietzsche proclaimed the end of philosophy. Wittgenstein gave a therapeutic farewell, and Heidegger proposed his dramatic overcoming. That's also another rabbit hole. Current end of philosophy debates are mostly rehashings and variations of these ones that already happened. Nietzsche and Heidegger inspire the agenda of French post structuralists like Foucault and Derrida. Nietzsche and Heidegger, they're not fucking woke. So, Foucault and Derrida were inspired by Nietzsche and Heidegger. Those are not woke philosophers. Anyway, Nietzsche and Heidegger's re examination of the subject or the self inspired Foucault's and Derrida's examinations of cultural institutions and language. Habermas rejected French post-structuralist radical critique of reason. Yes, Habermas defends reason. James Lindsay says the critical theorists from the Frankfurt School are all woke and shit, and he's defending reason. Yes, Habermas defends reason. Okay, so doesn't sound very woke, does it? He started his reaction to this by analyzing what he calls the philosophical discourse of modernity, obviously the name of the book, from which he thinks this radical critique of reason that went too far emerged. He reframes the concept of reason. He goes back to what he thinks are the historical roots of Hegel, the young Hegelians, Nietzsche, and Heidegger's positions. He highlights a philosophical road not taken. To him, he replaces subject centered reason with quote unquote reason as communicative action. What is Habermas's concept of reason? Watch my future videos on this book to find out.